So our theme for the month of June is empowerment. And what we value, or what empowers us to evolve, or what we experience in life is always a matter of choice. Sometimes our choices are made consciously. Other times they're just simply a culmination of habitual patterns. If we can view life as a continuously evolving soul, rather than one who's worried about going around at night, and we know that we exist throughout all dimensions, there is a potential for a greater experience of living. As spiritual beings having a human experience, we tend to take the path of least resistance, especially when we're faced with a new idea. If our existing belief has been held for years and years and years, we will invent all kinds of excuses and go all the way out of our way to make believe that this new idea isn't true. Maybe you've heard the expression analysis paralysis, where we recreate the idea over and over and over again, trying to get it to fit into our box. And when we refuse to face what we see, this is actually the greatest stumbling block in our evolution. Forcing that new idea into our fixed consciousness requires that we look at what's in our belief system. And denial isn't a river in Egypt. Life will reflect back at us exactly what's contained within our subjective beliefs. And denial, that is the river metaphysically, represents that great subconscious flow of life. So not only what's in our individual belief system affects us, but also what's in the collective belief system of those we hang out with. I remember when I got married for the first time, I was in that mindset of, okay, you and me against the world. Not exactly correct, right? Because we serve the greater good when we serve all of life, when we don't perpetuate that idea of separation. And Dr. Ernest Holmes says it is not enough to say that we attract what we think, we become what we think. And what we become, we attract, which is better known as the law of attraction. And I know you're all familiar with that. So our personal work is about recognizing the divine order, that underlying beauty of the universe. Even when we see a bad moon on the rise, earthquakes and lightning, and we fear bad times today, we know the end is coming soon. Then it's important for us to deny the denial and embrace the idea of empowerment. Without trust in the universe, the intangible is very difficult to manifest into form. Transcending beyond the experience becomes a lot more challenging unless we have activated our complete faith. If we are to move the mountains of material conditions to reveal the underlying truth. So looking outward or even upward for someone or something outside of ourselves to shift the situation simply means that we're unwilling to do the work ourselves. Our free will enables us to create the conditions around us. Whether they limit us or whether we can shift them is totally up to us. So after 3 months of negotiations, as you all know because you're sitting here this morning, our lease fell through. Along that same time frame, after 3 months of negotiations, I've been trying to refinance my mortgage to lock in the interest rate, and the mortgage case was closed. During the move, for those of you who don't know, I lost my keys. So I feel the river overflowing, right? Like they sing about in the song. What do you do when that happens? So, I was hoping for a different outcome. Dr. Ernest Holmes says hope is better than despair, but there's no power in hope. So what do? Well, I threw a personal pity party. And it is important, I laugh about that, but it is important for us to feel the emotions, to be engaged in the feeling, because that is the power that animates our prayer. So, we all know who to call, don't we? When we need to vent, right? We know who to call. So I got on the phone and said I coulda, I shoulda, I woulda, and I expressed all my regrets. David Alt says empowerment can only be manifested through planting and nurturing seeds of trust. So after I was finished talking to the person that, likes the drama and wants to hear about all that, then I picked up the phone and called my prayer partner. And if you don't have a prayer partner, I strongly suggest that you get one. This is someone who holds the high watch for you. Not unlike our practitioners, Carol and Geraldine will be happy to do for you after the celebration this morning. So they remind us of who we are. They bring us back to the truth, even in the midst of what appears to be the struggle. And this is not so much in the outward efforts as it is in an inner process of thinking. So I declared that the pity party was over and that it was time to start counting my blessings. Take a look out the window. Isn't this a lovely space? Look where we are this morning. We had a beautiful closing circle at High Desert. And many, many people spoke to the idea of it's not the place, right? It's the people. It's the community. It's the love and support that we share with one another. One person said to me that it felt like a 6,000 square foot gorilla had been lifted off of their shoulders. So our spiritual family dressed up. They showed up. They helped with packing. They bought things they didn't even need so that our silent auction could be successful. And thank God, of course, for the 3 A's, Andrew, Ayla, and Andrew, who helped us with the muscle, right? So sometimes we do forget who we are as spiritual beings. But we are healthy, we are prosperous, we are abundant, and we are immersed in a creative flow that can do anything. The motto of the whole teaching, change your thinking, change your experience. So the only thing that limits us is our thinking. We just have to get our BUT out of the way. So since nature provides all we need, and it's up to us to learn how to take what we want, the great master teacher said that he came that we might have life more abundantly. So merging the mental as well as the spiritual into our consciousness allows us to really understand that there is a power for good in the universe that is greater than we are, and we can use it. So the divine plan is always unfolding, even when we are moving through the most challenging times. And this is my favorite quote from Dr. Tom Costa. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not stop to build a condominium. So it's up to you. That's the title of my talk this morning. It's also up to me to move my beliefs. With this incredible view of the golf course, who needs a lease? Seriously. My mortgage broker assured me that my interest rate is locked in, and someone accidentally closed the case. The good news, she has everything she needs, and it's up to her to do the work. Yay! Judy carried me to the BMW place on Friday to get my new key, and it was only half the price of what I thought it was going to be. And when we find it in the storage chamber, it'll be like the BOGO sale at Smith's. Buy one, get one free, right? So David All says this distinction between seeking and practice is profound and essential. When we look for a quick fix rather than doing the work, the seeking becomes an entity in and of itself. It's called your ego. And we all know what ego stands for, edging God out. So the seeking must come to an end. The work is within our own consciousness. And whenever we find ourselves in a compromising situation, it's important to ask the questions. Why am I repeating this pattern? Why am I harboring a grudge? What triggers my reactions? Why am I offended? So I'm going to recommend for you an exercise, and that is to keep a calendar for the next week and write down, when you wake up, in the middle of the day and in the evening, what's going on in your consciousness? How are you dealing with the things that are presented to you? Are you a morning person? Are you an evening person? Is lunchtime your wake up? Right? Everybody has a different time frame. Then you can also make a note of your eating patterns. I eat fruit in the morning. Other people eat other things. But how does that affect you in the morning, in the evening, and at lunchtime? When you meditate, does that affect your daily life? If you go outside to commune with Mother Nature, does that affect your daily life? How about affirmations? When I first started to do affirmations, I had a sticky note, and it was on my mirror in the bathroom. There was one on my steering wheel. There was one every place I went to keep me focused on the truth of who I am as a spiritual being. And my very first affirmation was, I am whole, perfect, and complete. And I said it over and over and over and over again. So what we learn about ourselves in that process helps us to evolve our individual as well as our collective consciousness. When what we know becomes an opinion rather than what we don't know, that can lead us to divine curiosity, can be a lot more significant. When I was taking lessons to learn how to ride Fantasy, my Arabian mare, the trainer said, don't get on the horse without me being with you. Well, that's like, don't have a drink of water. So, of course, I was up on the horse, and we were, going around the corral, and the breeze kicked up, the weeds moved, the horse went up, Reverend Heidi went down, and I dislocated my wrist. And I have zero medical knowledge. But what I didn't know served me in that moment, because I looked down and thought, it's not supposed to be like that, and I just simply pulled it back into place. So trying not to be so set in your opinions versus divine curiosity. What can that look like? How can that be different? The energy of curiosity lifts us out of our silent inner condemnation. We are sometimes our greatest enemy. And so it's important to really move through that and to pay attention to that still small voice of intuition. What we really know deeply comes from the infinite that knows all there is to know. And when we practice and we have that demonstration, it's so much easier to trust in the process because we're developing an inner trust in the divine. And it is much easier to plant roots of trust about ourselves as well as about the perfect pattern of the universe when we do have the demonstration. How many of you are gardeners? Mother Nature is our greatest teacher, isn't she? She's always reproducing herself. One of the things that is required is called deadheading, right? When the flower comes up and then the flower kind of wilts, you're supposed to zip it off. And when you zip it off, what happens? Another flower comes up. Or two. Sometimes it will split and you get two flowers. So the quicker you do that, the quicker you deadhead the old opinions, the old ideas, then the new things can be burst through you. So it's up to you to let go and to let God. And once we free ourselves, we can free those around us. Our commitment to practice, practice, practice is what authentic empowerment is all about. We are already whole, perfect, and complete. When we get grounded in that ultimate reality by shifting our belief systems, then when we fear the rivers overflowing, like in the Creedence Clearwater song, we know that the rivers that are overflowing, water, represents spirit. And so spirit is just simply overflowing into our experience. So it's up to you and it's up to me to get wet. Thank you and namaste.